Bonjour tout le monde. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another lesson of Learn French with Madame. Today, we're going to talk about contractions with a and de. And no, it is not the type of contraction that someone would experience when they're having a baby. So let's go ahead and just start talking about what a and de mean. So on my piece of paper here, I'm going to divide into two columns. On the left-hand side, I'm going to write a. And on the right-hand side, I'm going to write de. All right, and then below each one of those, I'm going to draw a little table. All right, so now that we have our tables drawn, let's start talking about what each one of these mean. So first off, a means to or at, and de means of or from. And so with both of these, we're going to use our definite articles that we learned recently. So really, a contraction is one of these plus our definite article. Right? And our definite articles are le, la, les, and l'apostrophe. Right? So we need this or this plus one of these in order to make our contraction. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to start with a. We're first going to write out a plus our definite article. So we're going to write out a plus le first. And so that looks like this, a plus le. And then we're going to draw a little equal sign. So we're going to write that out for all of our definite articles. A plus la, a plus les, and a plus l'apostrophe. All right, so now that we have all of our as plus our definite articles written out, we can start talking about what they contract to. And by contract, I just mean that instead of having two forms, now they might change and just be one. So it's like if you have eggs, right? We're going to use the example of an egg. There's two parts to an egg. There's the yolk and there's the white part. If you take away the yolk, you have only one. But when you do scrambled eggs, that's when you end up with both parts combined. So that's what we're basically going to do. We're going to scramble these together and make them scrambled eggs, kind of. So we're going to take our a plus le, and that is going to change to o. So it changes to just one word. A plus la is nice. It stays the same. It doesn't change. So it just stays a la. A plus les is nice because it's similar to the first form, AU. So instead of just AU, we make it AUX. And then A plus l'apostrophe is really nice because it stays the exact same. So really, out of all of these four things, there's only two that really change. We really only need to worry about this A plus le and a plus les. Those are the only ones that are really going to change. So now when we have a plus le and it changes to o, all of these mean to the or at the. So all of these mean to the or at the. All of those mean the same thing, to the or at the. And you would use these for the same reason why you would pick a specific definite article, right? So if you're talking about something that's masculine, you're going to use the masculine definite article. So you would end up with O. It's the same reasoning behind why you would choose one of these. It's the same reason why you would choose one of these. That's it. So let's do an example of to the or at the. We could say at the school, right? Or to the school. So I'm going to leave a little blank and we could say the school. So now looking at our word école, we've got to decide if it's feminine or masculine. Now I told you that there's a rule you can apply that if it ends in an E, most of the time it's going to be feminine. So this one ends in an E, so it's probably feminine. Now we have two options. Is this plural or is this not plural? It's not plural. So we can automatically get rid of this one because it's not plural. And we figured out that it's plural, it's feminine, so we can automatically get rid of this one as well. So we can get rid of the two that are highlighted in yellow. Now looking at école, we know it's feminine, but does it start with a vowel? Yes, it does. So because it starts with a vowel, we cannot use this one. We have to use the one that starts with a vowel. So we're going to end up using a l'apostrophe for our contraction. So a l'apostrophe. All right, let's talk a little bit about the contractions with de. So contractions with de are pretty much the same concept as these ones. We're going to just take de plus our definite article instead of a. So I'm going to go through and write my de plus definite article. If you're following along, taking some notes at home, now is the good time to start making sure you get caught up. So we have de plus le, de plus la, de plus les, and de plus l'apostrophe. Right, so we have all of our separate forms right here. Remember, we have two. Now we need to combine them like scrambled eggs and make them into one. De plus le is going to change to do. And de plus la is going to stay the same, and it's going to stay de la. De plus les changes to day, and de plus l'apostrophe stays the same, de l'apostrophe. So out of all of those, we still only have two that we need to worry about. We only need to worry about this one and this one. Those are the only ones that are going to change. Everything else stays the same. Those are the only ones that change. All right, let's do an example. So we know that de means of or from. So we're going to do an example. We're going to stick with école for the first one. So we've got our article, and then we have our place. So école, we know means school. So it's not plural because it doesn't have an S or an X on the end. It's not masculine because it's got an E, so we can guess that it's probably feminine. So we can automatically get rid of this one, and we can get rid of this one. So now we're just left with de la and de l'apostrophe. The only time we would use de l'apostrophe is if our word starts with a vowel. Now, our word does start with a vowel, so we need to use de l'apostrophe. So we just add that in. Just like with a plus le equaling o, and o, a la, o, and a l'apostrophe, all of those meaning to the or at the, these are all going to mean of the or from the. So these all mean the same thing, of the or from the. Right? So contractions with a and de aren't super difficult. The only thing is that you just have to remember that out of all of these, there's only two that really change, the masculine and the plural. Those are the only ones that change. So if you can just remember what a and de mean, to the or at the, and from the or of the. So if you can remember, a means to or at, de means of or from, and then you know that it goes with a definite article like le, la, les, or l'apostrophe, then you should be pretty all set as long as you can remember that there's two forms, the masculine and the plural, that change. All right, so I'm going to switch gears and we're going to talk about conjunctions. So I'm going to switch out my paper here so we can talk about conjunctions. All right, so conjunctions, you've already learned some of them. Conjunctions, if you've ever heard of conjunction junction, like from the little like clip that you used to watch on YouTube. So if you've ever heard of conjunction junction, if you haven't, you should look it up. But conjunctions just basically take two things and link them together. So I'm going to draw two boxes right here. And we're going to say that this is our train. And so our train is connected. And so this would be the conjunction. Your conjunction just links two things together. So like I said, a conjunction just links two things together. There are only 3 conjunctions that I want to teach you today. Those conjunctions are and, but, and or. So we've got and, but, and or. All right, so let's talk about what these conjunctions are in French. So first off, let's talk about and. And in French, you've seen lots of times already, is a. A. And it's pronounced like the letter A. So I'll write off on the side here how you kind of say these. All right, next we have but. And this is helpful when you're saying somebody likes something, but they don't like something else. So this one is May. May. Like the month of May. All right. And our last one for today is ooh. Ooh. Kind of like what an owl would say. Ooh. All right, let's do an example. So at the bottom here, I'm going to write out an example. So we're going to say, j'aime le français. Je n'aime pas l'histoire. So we have j'aime le français blank, je n'aime pas l'histoire. So looking at all of our conjunctions up here, which one do you think is going to go in this blank? Which one do you think is going to go in this blank? Would it make sense to say, I like French and I don't like history? Or would it make sense to say, I like French, but I don't like history? Or does it make sense to say, I like French or I don't like history? So which one do you think I should put in that blank? Oui, mais. I like French, but I don't like history. Mais. All right, let's do another example. We're going to make this one a question. So we're going to say, est-ce que, remember that we learned est-ce que means do or does. So, est-ce que tu aimes le science or les sciences blank l'anglais? So now we have our question. So go through, figure out which conjunction you think makes the most amount of sense in that blank. Oui, it should be ooh. So we're saying, do you like, Madame should probably conjugate this verb right. So do you like science or English? Because we're asking a question. So or is usually used when you're asking questions. So real quick review on conjunctions. We have a, which means and. So if I was saying I like history and French. Mais, which means but. So I like French, but I don't like history. Ou means or. So do you like science or English? And then real quick review of our contractions that we talked about earlier today. Remember our contractions, we have 2 different types. We have a and de. A means to or at. De means of or from. Like you're coming from somewhere, or this is the pen of somebody. With our contractions, we only have two forms that really change. The rest stay the same. So a plus le changes to o. A la stays the same. A plus le changes to o with an x. And a l'apostrophe stays the same. And all of these mean to the or at the. Now with de, we still only have two forms that change, and then they're same forms as a. So de plus le is going to change to do, like your homework assignment is due tomorrow. De la stays the same. De plus le changes to day, like a day of the week. And de plus le stays the same. All of these mean of the or from the. So I'm coming from the school, or this is the class of Madame. Hopefully, contractions and conjunctions aren't super difficult, but if you need a little bit of extra help, feel free to email me and I will help as soon as I can. C'est tout et à plus!